Hello, folks. I am here, I promise. I'm just hidden behind this amazing little graphic here. My name is Rosendo Pili. Uh, really quickly, thank you all for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whatever it is and however it's looking at in your part of the world. I see we've got a ton of folks in the chat currently. That's amazing. We've got folks joining us from India. Let us know where you're joining us from in the world. I'll give you a little shout out. We've got Carta Vey here. Hi, everyone. Hi to you as well. I appreciate that. We've got folks asking questions, asking about currently learning full stack front end and part of the midwave back end. That's amazing because this is a great workshop for anyone that is looking to build out full stack applications. Like deployment is like a really big part of it, and we're going to be exploring some of the advanced features of Defang. Yeah, it's going to be great. Honestly, y'all don't want to hear from me. You're here to learn about Defang, a really great cloud software from the people who actually built it. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Leo Lunesu, who is an expert on the subject, and he'll be walking you through some of the features I was just talking about. I hope y'all enjoy. Without any further ado, give Leo a warm round of applause, please. All right.
Hey guys. Hey Rosendo. How's everybody doing today? Yeah, so I'm Leo, CTO, co-founder of Defang. Most of the stuff I'll be showing today, I built a lot of it, and with my colleagues, of course. They will be in the chat as well. So if you have any questions, post them in the chat. If I have time and I see it, I will try to answer. But my colleagues should be there to answer when I'm, presenting or doing stuff. So yeah, let's get right into it. Thanks, Rosendo. Right on cue. Today will be advanced Defang. Yesterday, I did a workshop where I did the introduction to Defang, and we got to, install the application, develop a little test application using the AI, deploy it, and debug it. So that was all a small introduction. I have a slide about it today just for people that missed it. Do go back to that application later, or this video for that matter. You can rewatch these later if you can't follow along, but I will go slow. So today will be more like a hands-on workshop, so definitely try to follow along. A quick reminder that we, Defang, have 5 challenges in this Global Hack Week Cloud. And there's no reason why you shouldn't do at least one of them, especially the one-click deploy, right? It's all in the name, one-click deploy. I will show you how to do that. If you haven't done it yet, go do it now. Let's crash those servers of ours and see how many we can get deployed. And it's really that simple. All you need is a GitHub account, but you can create one during the setup. So, for example, here is a project of mine that I deployed yesterday. We'll go to our homepage, which is Defang. Oh, I'm caps. Defang.io. You'll find a samples button there. So click that. You can browse the samples. For example, let's take this one, an example with Redis, which I will be talking about today. Actually, this will take a while, so let's pick a simpler one. A basic Flask to-do app, one-click deploy. You'll be asked to log in to our portal, which I was already logged in, so that's why it jumped right into GitHub. So what happens with one-click deploy? You'll be redirected to GitHub to create a copy of that sample under your own name. And that means you get actually your own deployment, your own copy, which you can customize, and those customizations will be visible to the world if you share the URL. So here I say I want to make that copy under my own account, a name of a repository. If I click the green one here, I'll get a random generated name, which is verbose octo waffle, okay? And you can make it public or private. Let's make a copy. So this is one-click deploy. Go try it out. If you run into issues, reach out to us in the chat or in Discord. Probably Discord is better because we can get back to it after the workshop. After you have your own copy, if you go to the Actions tab, you will see that immediately the deploy action will run. So this is what we mean by one-click deploy. You pick a sample, you create a copy, and you get your own deployment of that copy. Now, as I've shown you, I had already a copy running. So just a quick primer for people that weren't there yesterday. Will show you how to manage that application, even if you use one-click deploy, how to manage it using the command line. If you want to make customizations, if you want to set sensitive configuration, these are things that you can do in GitHub, but you can also do in the command line. So that is actually our second challenge. So after your one-click deploy, our second challenge is set up the Defang CLI and log into the portal to see your deployment. So even that I can show you real quickly. Our deployment has failed. We'll go back to that later. But this is the deployment that I did yesterday. You'll see this is the portal. If I log out, so this is what you'll see if you go to portal.defang.dev, right? So portal. You can actually get there from our homepage. So if you go to our homepage, defang.io, there's a portal button right here. You have to agree to our terms and conditions. And that basically says that you will not abuse our service to do illegal stuff, right? So we want you to agree to that. And here you can see the services that I deployed yesterday. They have a URL. You can see that there's a URL, there's logs. This service is live. You can actually use it. It's a blog that our intern built. And he's talking about some of the things that he used to build this blog is actually using Next.js. So you don't, if you want to use Next.js with Defang, you most certainly can. So this is the portal and the CLI. I showed it yesterday. You can install it with a one-liner like this. I'll show in a minute. Third challenge, create a simple app with Defang Generate. I showed you yesterday how to do that. Basically boils down to going to, after the installation, you do Defang Generate, and you pick a language, and you either pick a sample or you generate a project from scratch using a English language prompt. After that, compose up, so deploying that application, that is a separate challenge. So definitely try that. And then finally, advanced features. That's all I'll be talking about today. So for those of you that are new, that couldn't make it yesterday, what is Defang? So that's a command line tool to deploy and manage your cloud application. There's also a portal, and there's also one-click deploy, but one-click deploy is using that same tool. So I'll show you how that works later. We follow the Docker Compose spec. So if you're familiar with Docker, you can use all that knowledge. You can, if you know about Dockerfile, if you know about Docker Compose file, we use those same files. They are the same files that Docker uses. You don't have to use Docker. You can use Docker. If you want, you can keep using Docker for your local development, and you will use Defang where it makes sense to deploy, manage your application in the cloud. So for this workshop, what you need is a laptop running either macOS, Linux, or Windows. We'll work on 3. Some editor. I use Visual Studio Code. The Defang command line tool. I'll show you how to install that. A GitHub account. Again, when you get prompted to log into GitHub, there's an option to create an account if you haven't created one already. And some knowledge of the command shell and Git is helpful. This is how you install Defang. All these instructions are also on our website. So we have Brew for macOS users. We have a shell installer for Linux users. This shell installer actually also works in Windows subsystem for Linux. So if you run Linux on Windows or on macOS, if you don't use Brew or you don't want to use Brew, you can use the same one-line shell installer. And then on Windows, you also have winget. So super easy, winget install Defang. The QR code points you to other ways of installing. So these are the 3 main ways of installing. There's other ways like downloading the zip file. You can compile Defang for yourself, because it's an open source project. You can download the source code and compile it yourself. Other ways, follow the QR code. So quick primer, what we did yesterday. We installed Defang generate to generate a project from scratch or use one of our samples. Defang compose up to deploy that sample to the cloud. Yesterday's workshop, we went to the playground. That is our Defang environment, where we will host for a limited time your project just for testing, just for playing around. That's why we call it the playground. Defang tail to debug your application if something goes wrong. You want to say, hey, what happened an hour ago? You can do defang tail -- since 1h for 1 hour. You can also do 10m for 10 minutes, etc. -- verbose if you want to see not just errors, but you want to see all kinds of information that your application is outputting. And if you have a project with multiple services, so more complicated project, with -n, you can look at the logs for a single service. So if you have a project that has 4 services, having all those logs mixed up can be quite confusing. So you can actually say, I am only interested in one service. So these are the names of the services that you used in your compose file. Finally, if you're done with your project or you want to start a new project, first deprovision, which means destroying your existing project, and you do defang compose down. What goes up must come down. So very easy to remember. I saw one user mentioned that she tried defang compose up, but she got an error because she already has a project up and running. So defang compose down is how you will tear down your existing project before putting up a new one. Again, our playground environment is for playing around. We support only one project at a time there. So if you already have a project, you will have to tear it down. And let's go back to my case. I have a project that I started yesterday called the block starter. Also, it's a sample of ours. It's a Python Next.js sample. So, and if we go to the one that I did 5 minutes ago, I did one-click deploy. We can see that the deployment failed. And if we dig in, why did the deployment fail? It will say maximum number of projects reached. Deprovision a project or use BYOC. Deprovisioning, this error message might not be the clearest. It basically means defang compose down. So let's do that now. So I'm not going to be generating. I can use defang ps to look what's there. So I can see that the expert goggles project is currently running. But I'm trying to, my one-click deploy was trying to deploy verbose octo-waffle project. So that's not going to work. So we'll use defang compose down. And because this was a one-click deploy project, expert goggles, I don't actually have a project here. So defang compose down, because I only have one project, it actually works. You can specify exactly the name of the project if you want to make sure you're destroying the right one. Right now, I only have one, so I know it's going to do the right thing. If we go to the portal, we will see that the project is gone. I have no more projects, and the portal will show you the welcome screen. So it's basically a very quickly a primer on how to get started. Most of the stuff we've talked about today. So now this project is being deprovisioned, right? Defang compose down. When this is done, I can actually go back to my one-click deploy from today, the new one, and I can say rerun all jobs, and it will try to deploy again. And this time, because my previous project is gone, now deploy will succeed. It'll take a while because it's still destroying the previous one, but this will eventually succeed. Okay, let's see, do we have any questions we can answer so far? I see, okay, so one application failed. Yeah, thanks MLH for stepping in. Show us the error message and let us know. one of my colleagues might be able to help you in this chat, or otherwise go to our Discord or ask Defang channel in the MLH Discord. We are there as well. So when it fails, do reach out to us. We want to know what happens. We want to know how people are using it. Maybe there's a mistake in our samples. You know, we have 50, 60 samples now. And yeah, code is always changing. It might be that a dependency that our sample is using has changed over time, and now the sample is broken. This is totally possible. So do let us know when it fails. Okay. So much was about showing you most of the stuff that we already showed yesterday. Today we go do some crazy new stuff. So advanced features today will include using your own domain name. We call that bring your own domain, BYOD. Deploying to your own AWS account. You will see that the playground has many limitations, one project at a time. Each project can only have 4 services. The services can only have 8 GB of memory, etc. A lot of limitations, partly to avoid abuse and to manage your own costs, of course. Today we'll show you how to use your own AWS account if you want to deploy 5 projects, 10 services, 16 GB of memory, or maybe a GPU because you're doing a language model machine learning thing, perhaps. You can use your own AWS account, so I'll show you how to do that. Using GPUs, exactly, right? So you won't be able to use GPUs in our playground, but in your own AWS account, you can have a GPU in your project. And using storage like Redis. I'll show you how to do that too. Oh, I see a lot of exclamation marks. That sounds good. Cool. So if you have built something with Defang during this workshop, please share if you're willing and able. Please share with us. Love to see what people are building, even if it's a simple hello world or like a random cat or a meme, whatever it is. Share with us. It's super exciting to see people going from just an idea to a URL that they can share with the world. Very eager to hear more about those. Cool. Let's go right in it. Bring your own domain. So how do you use a domain with Defang? It's super easy. I'll show you today. You add a domain name to your compose file. Yesterday, we showed you how to create a compose file, either use a sample or generate. In essence, the compose file just has the different services in it. Many projects might have a single service in it. On the screen is an example here of a project that has a single service called web. That service is built from the current folder. That's why it says build context dot. So all the sources are in the same folder. The service is listing on a port 3000. It's the same as yesterday, same project. But now there's one difference. We add a domain name. And you do that by adding a domain name to that service. Now I picked defangrules.xyz. But you know what? Let's actually get into it and buy a domain name. So this is going to be live domain buying. How do you guys feel about that? Let's go here. I'm going to try defangrules.xyz, see if that's available. Yeah, $2. All right, let's go. I'm using Porkbun. You can use Cloudflare. You can use Route 53. Yeah, go to somewhere that you're comfortable leaving your details. It really doesn't matter. GoDaddy is a very popular one as well. I'll be using Apple Pay. Oh, did I press the wrong button? Yes, I did press the wrong button. Let's try that again. So how do I use Apple Pay? This button doesn't seem to work. Oh, I guess I have to use Safari. Is that true? Okay, Defang rules. So, because if somebody's faster than me, they will have bought it before I did. Defang rules.xyz. There we go. Oh, okay. So I have to use Safari to use Apple Pay. All right, that's fine. There we go. So live domain buying. Have we done that before? So now I bought a domain, processing the order. Okay, this is probably going to take 5 to 10 minutes. We'll get back to that later. All right, I'll get to that later. Cool. So you can see here, Defang rules is doing the initial. Yeah, it's still being set up. We'll get back to it later. So we're going to add a domain name to our project. Yeah, let's go do that. So actually, let's just stick to our the project that I one-clicked.
Hey folks, not sure what happened with the existing broadcast, but we'll be right back. In the meanwhile, I'll go ahead and fill some time here. Not sure what happened with Leo's broadcast there. He may just be having some technical issues in terms of his internet. But if you have any questions in the chat, definitely drop them. I know some folks were asking earlier, what if we have a project already completed? How to use Defang with it? I think we answered that in the chat. So please let us know if you are good to go. And it looks like Leo's back. So let me go ahead and add him to the broadcast. Hey, how's it going, Leo? Not sure what happened, but hopefully everything's okay.
I closed the wrong window. Sorry about that, guys.
No worries. So here we go. We're back up and running. I'll leave y'all to it.
Cool. So yeah, while Porkbun is setting up our domain, I'll go back to the project. Let's see where that is. So I was looking for this window and I closed the wrong one. So yeah, this is our one-click deploy project that we did 20 minutes ago. And it failed the first time because I already had a project from yesterday. I did defang compose down in my command line. That tore down the existing project, and then the new one worked. So now we have a new project up and running from one-click deploy. We can look at it here. We have a URL that we can go to. It's our to-do list. So it's a very simple Python project that you can use to manage a to-do list. These are all starting points. These are not meant to be useful applications, but look at the source code, learn from it, change it to fit your own needs. So let's now add a domain name to this project. We go back to our GitHub. We'll open the compose file. Here we go. I'll press the edit button. Again, you can do this with Visual Studio Code. I just want to show you what one-click deploy looks like, how you can manage an application actually just using the browser. So the domain we bought was Defang rules XYZ. And I'm committing this change to my project. And so I'm going to describe a little bit what I did here. So add domain name to project to web server, the Flask service. This is just a description, right? So you remember what you've done. Your colleagues can see what you've done. Other people, if you're building an open source project, very useful to be very clear what the changes are that you're making. Okay, so now the deployment is happening again. You see here a new deployment is starting, the add domain name to Flask service. Cool. While that is running, we'll go back to Porkbun, where we bought the domain. See if, let's refresh this page. See if we can manage the domain name. So DNS, yeah. So by default, Porkbun adds a redirect to their own website. So we'll delete that first. And then we'll create our own. And so then, and here we're going to put the name that Defang created. So we're going to copy paste this and put that into our DNS like this. So we're going to make an alias record. Basically, that means that our domain is an alias for the domain that Defang has created for you. Then the host is going to be nothing. You can put www here. I'm going to not put anything there. So then if you go to defangrules.xyz, you would get that app. The answer, again, this is the domain name that we have created for you. That's the one that shows up in the portal. You can also see it in the CLI. So if you do defang ps-l, so exactly the hint, follow the hint that the CLI shows. Let me clear the screen. So you can see that here as well, right? So you can see the names here exactly the same as in the portal. Yeah, okay, let's add that. Cool. That might take a while to be active. So let's see how our deployment is going in GitHub. So the domain name has been applied. Let's read the logs. All right, so it seems to have done its job. So now we'll try to go to this domain name, and it might initially fail. So, and the reason for that is that we need to create a certificate. So let's create a certificate using the CLI. We'll defang cert generate. And it says, okay, triggering a certificate generation. Certificate is what we use to secure traffic between your browser and the server. By default, all of that is secure. We don't even allow insecure traffic in Defang. So it will always be secured. And so the Defang now is waiting for that DNS record to appear. And again, that might take 10 minutes. I've seen it complete like within seconds, but it might take a while. So we'll see how long that takes. I hope it won't take too long. Did I save? Do I have to press save here or anything? That seems good. That seems fine. So the domain name here seems okay. Yeah, we can actually also confirm here. Defang rules.xyz. Yeah, so it does look that the domain name doesn't exist. So we might have to wait quite a while until this actually works, until actually the port bun where I bought the domain tells us that it's up and running. We won't be able to use the domain name. I guess nothing much we can do here then wait. Just want to make sure I didn't make a typo. Defang rules XYZ. Is that exactly what I typed in the compose file? Yeah, it's exactly I used the find feature to make sure that's exactly what I typed in the compose file. So everything is turning up yellow. Okay, so that is bring your own domain. I've shown you how to do it. Right now, we just have to wait for the domain to be active. Before we go to Redis, I also want to show bring your own cloud. So if you have your own AWS account, you can use that. In fact, that is our main value proposition. So you make a little project, you use the playground to test it out, but now this project of yours turns into the next Twitter or whatever. You actually are in control. You're not being held hostage by your hosting service like Defang. You can deploy it to your own provider that you want. If you choose AWS, because maybe they give you startup credits, you do that. We have DigitalOcean and GCP coming up. You can deploy the same application to a different cloud provider and go to the cheapest one, to the stable one, pick the one that you want. Your application doesn't change. You literally just tell Defang where to deploy your application. So let's do that. So I'll keep this up and running because we're still waiting for the domain to become active. So we'll start a new application, or we can use the random meme from yesterday. Yesterday I used Defang generate to create a project with a random meme. So let's deploy that to my own AWS account. Now to use AWS, you need AWS credentials. How you get those is really up to you. Like I use, so I can go to our AWS account here. Where's my, so I'll go to the Canada. AWS has a lot of data centers, and so I picked the Canadian one. That's the nearest to me. And you have to create something called a user and an access key and a secret access key. How you create those is really up to you. I use something called SSO, single sign-on. So for me, all of that is created by the SSO provider. If you don't use SSO, you probably end up using the AWS IAM, the Identity Access Manager, and you would make a user here. So that is one thing you can do. You can create users, and each user can create a access key and a secret access key, and you would use those. So as I said, I am not using those. I actually use SSO, so I'll log in with my SSO provider, which incidentally requires a hardware key. So I have my hardware key stuck into my computer now. So let me finish this up real quick. And I have to touch the hardware key. Okay, so I'm logged in now. And so now I can say AWS region is CA Central 1. That is the Canada one. That's the same as what it will show you here, CA Central 1. And my profile is called Defang Lab. And so you can see my prompt now, my terminal prompt has changed color. It actually tells me, hey, there's an active AWS Defang Lab. There's no magic there. It really looks for are the AWS variables set, then it will show you that they are set. So for some people, this is different. You might have to set AWS secret access key, etc. You will export those. But once you're done with that, you can literally do defang compose up. And the only difference now is that I have AWS, very specific AWS settings in my environment. So Defang now will detect those settings and will use those. You can see here, it says using the AWS provider. So yesterday that was different. Yesterday there was no message there, and it was going to the playground. So now it's going to the AWS provider, and it's actually going, because we picked Canada, it's going to the Canadian data center. This is another reason why you want to use bring your own cloud. You can pick which data center you're going to go into. If you're building like an application that is handling sensitive information, maybe you have to be in the country that you are building it in. And so you can control which data center is used by using our bring your own cloud feature. So this waiting for CloudFormation stack is a thing that happens the first time you use Defang bring your own cloud. I haven't used the Canadian data center yet. So it's going to do the first time in that data center is going to create something we call Defang CD. Defang CD, the CD stands for continuous deployment. That's a service that's there that is actually running all your Defang stuff. So when you do Defang compose up, it's that one that is doing all the building and packaging everything. It's not on your computer. Your computer is literally just talking to the cloud, and it's not doing anything other than uploading your project. And now the deployment is happening, and we'll wait for that deployment to appear. Yes, so to use AWS, you have to set up the AWS environment variables before you use the Defang compose up. That is correct. In fact, if you tell Defang to use compose up, but you don't have those variables, for example, I go to random meme, I do Defang compose up, and I can force it to use AWS by using -- provider. So I actually say, okay, you must use AWS, but it will complain. So it will say missing AWS region. Actually, it also gives a warning here. AWS provider was selected, but AWS environment was not set. So that's exactly to tell you from, hey, you want me to go to AWS, but I don't know how. So you'll have to enter those things. Here we go. So we get the same kind of message that the compose up is started, and now we'll just wait for the deployment to be complete. Let's see how our cool. So our DNS record is active. You see, it has proceeded. It says, hey, the DNS is properly configured, and now it's triggering the cert generation. Well, that's cool. Let's see if that is. HTTP. Do I have to type HTTPS? I thought it was. Oh yeah. Okay. So it's not there yet. The certificate is not created yet. So there's two steps happening here, right? First is checking that the DNS is correct. So that step has passed, and then finally is generating a certificate for that new service. So that second step has not happened yet. Oh, it's done. Okay. So that happened real fast. So now we have our application up and running from one-click deploy with our own domain name, right? I didn't use an editor for this project. I literally added to the copy I made, I added defang rules.xyz domain name. And yeah, so this is the Flask that I cloned. And here we go. This is now the portal. The portal is still showing the application logs, and the to-do list is active. So you guys can actually, this is the original name. This is the Defang rules XYZ. Yeah, you guys can check it out. Everybody will have their own domain name. This sample is not using a database. Oh, actually, I do see other people's stuff up here. That's pretty cool. All right. So this sample is not using a database. So it's just a very minimal, list manipulation. It doesn't do the persistence the way a real to-do application would do it. Maybe we should add that. Now that we have like Redis and database support, we should make a second sample that is a bit more complicated. But that is pretty cool. Show you how to buy a domain and use it. And we used Defang cert generate on the command line to actually create that certificate so that we have a secure connection. You can see here the connection is secure. It's using a certificate that was issued, yeah, I guess a few seconds ago. Yeah, literally half a minute ago. Cool. All right. Oh yeah, we were doing a deployment. I almost forgot. We were doing a bring your own cloud deployment. So this one is done. Our bring your own domain is done. Let's go to bring your own cloud. That is still running. Maybe I toggle the verbose mode to see if we get more logs. Because it's going to your own cloud account, you can actually follow along in the Amazon dashboard. So here we are in the Amazon dashboard. I switched to the Canadian data center. I can see the Defang CD, which is our continuous deployment. And you can see that it's running. So the deployment is still running. And you can also see that it already started creating resources in the account. So this is the CLI on my machine talking to my AWS account. So there's no Defang service in the middle. This is literally from your computer to your cloud account, creating all the resources that are necessary. So yeah, clearly it's still busy. We can see here, we can refresh and see when the service appears. We do we do expect a service to appear here at some point. Yeah, so this is the CD task, right? So this is the continuous deployment, which is actually doing all the stuff that we talked about yesterday. It's packaging the application, making a container image, which is a portable version of your application, pulling in any dependencies, storing that container image, again, in your account. So all of that you can follow along in your Amazon dashboard. So this is the Amazon container registry. So here we should also see containers appear. So we have the random meme here. So you can see it's created a cache. If you do multiple builds, then the cache will actually make it faster. If there's not many changes, then the cache will make sure that the second deployment will be much faster. So it's created a cache. It's created an actual build. Our images is done. So that's pretty cool. That's a good milestone. So I guess it should be up any second now. Oh, we can see now the service is up and running. Our random meme, which is the name of the project, and service one is the name of the service as it appeared in the compose file. Oh, cool. So the service is started on port 3000. So here we get some of the deployment log. We can see that it created like some buckets for the logs. If you're not familiar with AWS, without Defang, you would have to create all of these things manually or using a tool like Terraform. Super hard to do because you'd have to be an expert. And also want to make sure this is only showing like maybe 1/3 because I toggled the logs on quite late. So Defang takes care of all of that stuff for you. This deployment took 6 minutes. That's not fast. And that's because it's the first one. So I expect this to go down much faster, the second deployment. So you make a little change, your second deployment will be much faster. You can also keep using Docker. You know, if you're testing locally, you made a change to your Docker file, you made a change to your compose file. Yeah, you can test it out locally using Docker. You don't have to wait, 2 minutes for it to be live for everybody. Just make those changes locally first and test them locally first. So once this is done, like before, we will get a domain name. We can already see it here. It's called randommeme.leonelodefang.app. Let's see if that's live. Here we go. So this is the application from yesterday, but now it's using bring your own cloud. Yesterday was using defang.dev. So if you use the playground, you will have a defang.dev domain name. If you use bring your own cloud, you will have a defang.app domain name. Everything managed in your account, even that is managed in your account. So if you go to Route 53, which is the Amazon, the DNS that Amazon provides, we can look for the random meme here. Here you go. So, super clear. We have a random meme domain managed by ourselves in our AWS account. We did not change the application at all. I think this is pretty amazing, right? So we have an application that we generated with the AI yesterday. We deployed it to the playground. Looks good. We were happy with it. And we decide to deploy to our own domain. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, so check it out, random meme, leonello.defang.app. You can use your own domain name. Of course, it's the same thing, right? So I can go to that compose file. I can add my own domain name. I'm not going to buy another domain name. You know the drill now. Buy a domain name, add to your compose file domain name, the domain you bought, Defang Compose up. Again, you might have to wait 10 minutes for that domain to be active. You use Defang cert generate to create a generate a TLS certificate for secure communication between the browser and your service, and that's it. You know, you have your application up and running. Yeah, I think we're making good progress here. Any questions? Let's see what people are. Yeah, so actually the project that I deployed yesterday with one click was on the phone. I actually used my phone to deploy a project. I went to the Defang, I wanted to show someone, so I went to the defang.io website. I picked a sample, I clicked one click deploy, and a minute later, the website was up and running. I just wanted to show people, you know, you can actually deploy stuff to your own domain with a single click on the phone. Can the domain be a subdomain? Yes, it can most certainly be a subdomain. In fact, subdomains are easier to deal with than the Apex domain, the one that I bought, Defang rules.xyz. This is called the Apex domain because there's no www or anything. So if you want to manage those domains, it's actually easier to manage. So we can actually do that. Well, why don't we do that? So for example, I create a CNAME called random meme. I don't want a space in there. So, and this will be for my bring your own cloud. So I copy this. This is the answer. I have to remove HTTPS. This thing. So random meme Defang rules. I wanted to go to the bring your own cloud version of the application, so we can have one domain name but manage a subdomain. So I'm going to copy this subdomain and I'm going to add that to the compose file. You can use the editor that you want. I'm now just because I'm only changing something very simple, I don't bother going to Visual Studio Code, but you can totally use whichever editor you want. This is VI. People are familiar. Every computer like Linux or macOS comes with VI, and it's notoriously difficult to get out of. So the way to get out of it is to do : W for write and Q for quitting. So I made my changes. I'm going to write that change, and I'm going to quit, and we're going to do Defang compose up again. Cool. Yeah, let's leave it running. Cool. So the last thing I wanted to show today is how to deal with storage. Many services need some sort of storage, and you have databases, you have caches. Many small services, like the to-do list applications, stuff like that, they don't need a full-fledged database with schemas and migrations and stuff like that. So for those services, I recommend people to use something like Redis. Check it out. Redis is a very popular in-memory database. So it's usually referred to as a cache because it's in memory. But what does it mean in memory? That if the computer restarts, usually the memory is lost. So that's why they call Redis a cache, an in-memory database. Of course, Redis is a little smarter than that. So when it restarts, it's also able to restart where it picked off, to pick up where it left off. So you can have database-like properties with Redis, but anyway, for small applications, it's going to be very easy. So to show this, I'll be using the Defang Redis sample. So I'm going to go back to our homepage. I'll have to, before I do that, let me do a Defang compose down on the playground project. So this is my playground project, Defang PS. And I'm going to say, so this the Flask project, Defang compose down. I want to remove the playground project. because we're going to create the Redis sample. Let's have a look. Redis. Here we go. So I've already shown you one-click deploy, so I'm not going to show that again. If you don't want to use one-click to deploy, you can just use Defang new. If you click it, it will actually copy that. So while this is doing compose down, I'll do Defang new, and I'll use the same folder. So this creates a copy of the sample, but in my own folder. So now I can go into that folder. I'll use Visual Studio Code to look at it. Here we go. As usual, it has a compose file. It has a board service, an API service, a worker service, and this is the database Redis X. Cool. And so we can test this locally using Docker Compose Up. So this is Docker Compose Up, not Defang Compose Up, just to check locally what this looks like. I probably need to put the def file, but let's see. You see, there's two compose files. One is for development, which is likely the one that I use locally. Yeah, there we go. So for local development, I'll use the. Is it? It's a bit, Docker is a bit finicky. I have to put it in the right place. Oh, I see I have a typo in our sample. So I'll make sure we clear that up. All right, so the sample is up and running. Board. I actually don't know what these are. That's probably in the source code. Let's see. Also, password is password. Oh, here we go. Oh yeah, so this is the dashboard that is deployed from the sample. And so yeah. And this is using Redis on my local computer. So it's using Redis as a service like anything else. But if I now want to go to AWS, for example, I can tell Defang to use a managed Redis. And we do that by adding this tag here, x defang-redis. So this will tell Defang, don't use Redis like a regular program. Use a managed Redis. Managed Redis is something that is provided by Amazon, for example, and they take care of making backups, doing restores. When they have to do a version upgrade because maybe there's a security issue that they fix, they will take care of that for you. You don't have to do it yourself. And so adding this tag basically tells Defang to run Redis, not like a normal service, but using the managed service. And this is perfect for applications that need to handle scale, that need to be secure, resilient. It's one line that you add to your compose file, but you end up with a application that can handle scale and can handle downtime, everything taken care of because we use a managed Redis service. I see that we're near the end, and I want to leave some time for questions. Before we do that, let's check in on our deployments. We had our BYOC deployment for the random meme X. So I see the deployment did have a failure. We can dig in what happened there. So I'm guessing, yeah, so it's probably the certificate issue like before. You can see that the random meme defang rules XYZ is seems to be hooked up, but the certificate is not valid. So I won't have time to dig in what that is. Maybe it's a timeout, something like that. Anytime you buy a domain and you want to use it, you'll end up having to wait 10, 15 minutes for that to be active. So at least I've shown you the changes you need to make. If you do run into issues, for whatever reason, if you do run into issues, reach out to us. Yeah, go to Discord. After this workshop, we'll be in the MLH Ask Defang channel. Also, we have our own Discord, so follow that link. It's on the screen right now. Ask Defang.io Discord. Yeah, very happy to answer any questions. Can I know the limitations? Oh, here we go. How does Defang provision SSL for custom domains? I see that my colleague Edward has answered the question. Yeah, we use Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt is a very popular project that people use for issuing free SSL certificates. It's free, but it's secure. You don't have to worry about security because before you get a certificate, Let's Encrypt needs proof that you are the owner. So there's definitely a check happening, and Defang does that for you. Defang does that check for you. The Defang CLI is actually talking to Let's Encrypt to tell them, hey, here's the proof that I'm the owner of the domain, and then Let's Encrypt gives us a certificate that we then attach into your account. In fact, if you go again, if you're using bring your own cloud, you can follow along and you can actually see those certificates appear here. You can remember we added random meme defang rules XYZ, and the certificate got added in your account. So again, there is nothing up our sleeves. Everything is clear. For some reason, it's still not connecting to it, even though the certificate is there. But okay, I'll have to look into why what happened there. Cool. We have 2 minutes to go. What else we have? Sorry, Rosendo, you selected a message. Can I know the limitations of the Defang AI? Does it have a token limit, request limit? Yeah, so we do limit the number of requests. That again, this is to avoid abuse. There's also a token limit for sure, but the prompts should be very short. The AI is not very good at building a huge project. It's really like a starting point. So it will give you 4 files just to get you started. It will not pull in like strange databases or obscure frameworks. It's literally just to get you started. Combine our own AI with a Copilot or a Tab9 or any of the other Cursor, any of the other AI development tools. Those are the ones that you use to actually extend your application, make changes, add features. Our AI is used for getting you started and to finding problems, right? If you run into problems, our AI will say, hey, I see the deployment failed. Do you want any help? It'll analyze the logs for you. Those are the places where we add value. We are the day-to-day building your application. There's companies that are training models just for that. We can't compete with that. Hey, I see that somebody has shared their project. That's pretty cool. I'll open it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so somebody shared this project just now. Simple form post. So hi, you type in something, your name, and then it says hi name. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's up and running. Cool. Thanks for sharing. All right, guys. I guess we're at time, but this was super fun. I've shown all the stuff that I wanted to show, so I hope people could follow along. Try our challenges. I think they're very easy. Come on, guys. Try those challenges. One-click deploy. Everybody should try. Defang generate, Defang compose up, and then bring your own cloud, the advanced challenge.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leo. We really appreciate it. As always, great workshop. And once again, yes, everyone, try the challenges. The link is right there at the bottom of the screen, mlh.link/GHW Cloud 24 dash Defang. Definitely check them out. Let us know. Once again, the Discord channel is open. Hashtag ask Defang. And if you're going to be sticking around, we're going to be getting into our day 2 announcements right after this. So see y'all there. All right, y'all. Have a good day.
See you guys.